Hi guys, Lisa DeLong here. We are in the middle of our Getting to Know You series, and we're so excited today because we have Dr. Sue Brown with us. She's a co-founder of NeurOptimal system, and boy, do I have a list of things for her. I just have so many questions, and I'm so excited you're here today, Sue. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, most welcome.
I love it. And I see that you are also stuck in your home the way every single one of us is. So I think that that kind of brings a little bit of new normal to where we all are together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, Sue, I get a lot of questions in the courses, and so I've kind of made this little list of questions that I thought would be fun to go over with you. And one of them, I think, when we talk in the courses, we talk about this accumulative knowledge that both you and Val brought together. And I'm wondering if you could just kind of speak on that a little bit, what your background is and so forth.
I have a very long background.
Good. I have a very long time.
Volunteering in hospitals when I was 13.
Wow.
Then went on to be a nurse, pretty well because you did that, or you were an air hostess or a teacher.
Yes.
But I always wanted to be in the medical world. I trained as a nurse at Bart's Hospital in London, which celebrated its 850th anniversary.
Oh my gosh.
Soon after I left. It's the oldest hospital in the world, although sadly I think it's been repurposed now. Then once I came to Canada, I ended up doing a degree in nursing, but you had to be a qualified nurse to actually do that degree. And during that course, discovered therapy. And I didn't know what it was. I just thought, I want to do that, but apply it in medicine. So I got a master's in education at that point at McGill, and then decided I really wanted to stay or go into psychology, pure psychology. So I applied to SUNY Stony Brook, which is the sort of bastion of behaviorism.
Yeah.
I felt was most appropriate for working with medically ill patients, and went and did my PhD there and got another master's along the way, as one does. So I've had a varied background, but in my view, I've always been in a medical environment.
Yeah. And we think of you as being more of a clinical director here at NeurOptimal, even though I know you are, for the most part, semi-retired. Anytime we have any of the clinical questions, we always go knocking on your door first. So it's fun that you have that kind of a background that you can share with others. Thank you.
Yes, I hope I'll never be totally retired. I love my work, have always done so, and will be continuing as long as I can.
Well, we hope you don't totally retire either. We are so happy to have you here. So, one of the things that I've heard Val say over and over again is that I have been able to put Sue in the box. And I think what he's talking about is your expertise and your intuitiveness has somehow been mathematically figured into the system. What is it that he really is referring to when he says that?
Val brought the mathematics and the nonlinear dynamical vision, but then I had a tool with which to work with human beings, and I had to make this work with human beings and work with all human beings, and be very effective and with very few side effects. So in the early days of being a trainer, which Lise, you know something about, you've known
Yes.
for many years, it was a very active process. We had 3 different periods that we would work with, where we had specific frequencies that balanced each other off. And we would do each of those periods for a number of minutes, and then you'd change and you'd go into the next one and the next one. And of course, the client knew very well when you were changing from one to another. And then the trainer was really sitting there at that point and adjusting threshold boxes. to get more or less feedback, and you were making it sound right. So
Yes.
the client was getting enough feedback, but not too much. Now, at the same time, I had access to the math behind the screens, so I was able to go in and change different parameters, and I could feel the effects in the client. Sitting in the chair behind the client for many years, I could feel where their central nervous system was. And so I was able to make very fine adjustments to things until I got something that was good for everybody and was effective. So over the time, this expertise was built into the software. We found ways of putting it in the software and having it work effectively. And now NeurOptimal, because it works so automatically, microsecond by microsecond, is much more efficiently working with the brain than we could ever be as human beings. So that's why it's so sort of seamless now. And then those phases are all sort of interwoven with the different mathematical rubrics that I would take clients through a ride and sort of, it's hard to explain really, but having the hard work happening in the middle and then coming into a soft landing in a state of awareness that was suitable for everyday functioning.
And really, that was kind of the change with the dynamical process, because it used to be, as early trainers, it used to be that they were isolated frequencies that everyone, all the linear field even, were working with, are these very isolated, and the amplitude of that signal, and that was kind of what everyone was playing with. But as you're doing this journey and learning, and that intuitiveness is being put in mathematically, you're using groups of frequencies and large dynamical moving components versus these isolated little frequencies.
Exactly.
So
plus we have other frequencies that nobody else has ever used.
Yes.
That are very effective, super effective at releasing the points of stuckness and then bringing the central nervous system back into a nice steady place.
Yes. Oh, excellent, excellent. And I do know, I mean, I remember 20 some years ago, probably 24 years ago or something, you hooking me up. And I remember that little play and that ability. Yes, I do. It was really very fascinating. It was kind of like you were stuck in my head somehow. You know, you really, that intuitiveness, I understand, because you were able, whether it was just what you were seeing with the way I was responding, or, you know, I don't know exactly how the intuitiveness happened, but you definitely had a real skill for that. So it's fun that that's in the system now.
Yes.
You know, once in a great while, and thank goodness this doesn't happen very often, but once in a while we have somebody who might come in and say that they don't feel as though anything is changing, or they don't either feel anything or they don't feel any better. Is there anything that you'd like to, you know, is there any words of wisdom you could give those trainers that might give them that self-confidence that they're on the right track and to just keep on?
Of course, well, I should mention the progress tracking tools, which I know we can't use in every country. So in Canada, we don't offer them because we can't imply that there's going to be any change as a result of using NeurOptimal. But if you can, using the progress tracking tools, even for yourself, is really important.
Yes. Because
you're the brain looking out that's going to be doing the training, and it's very hard for it to observe how it was before. It's a difficult process. So
yeah,
it's
that's a good way to put it.
Yes. And I always ask my clients, you know, what would you like ideally to have happen as a result of being here? And they'll tell me what they want. And then I said, well, you know, what would you be happy with? If you didn't have that ideal, what would you be happy with that it's made it worth your while and your time and your money to be here? And then they're bringing back those goals to something maybe a little more reasonable. And then those are your goals by which your sessions are going to be measured.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yes, if somebody doesn't think they're getting better, I might ask, well, what does your wife think? I've had people say, oh, well, she says, whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Yes.
So, or my husband, yes, he's been saying I seem less anxious. So you can get it out of the mouths of others,
Absolutely.
through the client themselves. And then you're really assessing if they're not changing, which is interesting because it's actually a learning task. That's very interesting that that brain is not learning. And so
Yeah.
what's preventing that? Then you're on a hunt for extrinsic constraints, which can be certain kinds of medications. I always say the azepams, they really prevent learning from happening, which is why they're so useful if you have a nasty procedure to go through. And in the end, if you're a bit stumped, and the client is as well, you can just ask them, you know, is it worth your while continuing? Would you like to stop if it's not helping you? And interestingly, I never had a client say to me, yes, I want to stop. They
Right.
all say, oh, no, I still want to come. So it's almost as if part of that brain knows that
Yes.
it likes this is working for it, even if the conscious part of the person can't see it.
You know, I think with the people that I've worked with training, it seems as though the ones that are concerned that they're not making any change are looking for a big expectation, a big change that they thought they would go through. And I think that when you say those extrinsic constraints, we also sometimes just have expectations that are really not, it's not that they're not realistic, it's that they may take a lot of incremental, little bitty, subtle things to happen before they see that one big thing. Like, I want to sleep better. Well, there's a lot of little bitty tiny elements that may have to change for you to wake up and say, I'm sleeping better.
That can be, although in my experience, I've seen clients exhibit huge change and they think nothing's happening.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and we've seen very vivid examples of that
Uh-huh.
over the years. One gentleman who came in absolutely terrified because he had to have a blood draw for something that was important, and he was phobic about it.
Oh,
So we actually did one session, and then when he came back the next week, he started just talking about general stuff. And I said, well, what about the blood draw? What happened? He said, oh, that was fine. And then continues on. Meanwhile, this was this huge thing when he was sitting there 1 week earlier.
yeah.
I've had the pain gate of people just kind of close, you know, so quickly. I shouldn't name disorders especially, but I had one client who would drive to me across a number of bridges to get out to me on Long Island when we were living there, and would be accompanied by the spouse. And one day I went out into the waiting room and I said, oh, where's your husband? And she said, oh, he didn't come with me again today. And I said, again? And he's been driving no problem across all the bridges and didn't even realize it. So
Oh
it's
my
often a
gosh.
matter of perception.
Yes, absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good to bring up. That's
Another thing, I actually worked with a number of identical twins through sheer luck,
really.
and they could then compare themselves with their twin, and that was very
Oh, how interesting.
yeah.
Oh
And
my
the
gosh, that'd be fun to listen about. Listen,
yeah, yeah.
that's fun. Wow, well, those are some really fun stories. All of us always love hearing all of the little stories that people have and go through. That's really good. I do have a question about, another thing that comes up a lot that I'm curious about is the people that come to us. Sometimes they're therapists, sometimes they're just in different fields of study, but what they'd like to do is to believe that they need to have several different services going on at the same time so that their client will make the most results that they possibly can. So they might want to be doing EFT or talk therapy or EMDR, or they have all of these different things that they want to do all at the same time, or within that same time that they're using the NeurOptimal process. Can you speak to that at all, and how necessary is it that we do other programs or processes at the same time?
When you're offering a NeurOptimal session, you're offering such incredibly sophisticated and complex and rich resources. It seems so simple, but it's not.
Yes.
So you do not have to add anything. If you want to set up a practice and offer just NeurOptimal, that's all you need, and that's fantastic. However, if you are an expert in some other thing, it doesn't matter what it is, NeurOptimal will likely make that other procedure move along much more quickly. So you can look at it either way. If you've got skills, you don't have to lose those skills just because you're adding NeurOptimal to your practice. But if you want to set up a practice, you certainly don't need to offer anything else.
Yes.
I do think there are advantages to being a sort of people person, in that you can sort of gauge your client and talk to them well and allow them to feel secure and comfortable.
Absolutely.
With what you're doing. And some of the more complex clients, it's really useful having maybe a therapeutic background.
Yeah.
I've worked with several clients with addiction problems, and they're challenging clients to work with. But no, you don't need any other skills or toys or anything. And I love health technologies.
Yes.
I personally, explore a lot of them. But no, you don't need to offer anything additional.
Good to know. Good to know. Great. Well, you guys, you've heard it from the expert. I mean, this has been a phenomenal time. Sue, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And in your home while you're quarantined, we certainly appreciate that. So thank you so much.
It's been lovely, Lise. Thank you.
All righty. Thanks. Bye-bye.